Drew Pearson. He got it. Touchdown.
All right. Welcome into Now About Them Cowboys. This is episode number 20. This evening, we are coming to you live immediately after week one of the preseason for the Dallas Cowboys, where they went up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They lost 28-23, but I think there was a bunch of bright spots, especially given that our twos went up against their ones for most of the night. And I am joined by a fella who's done me like a service by staying up. He's out there. It's 2 a.m. out there in the UK. That's Mike Poland at Ken Fig Cowboy on the Twitter from UK Cowboys and Blogging the Boys. Mike, how we doing?
Not bad. How are you? You're saying it's 2 a.m. You've been out enjoying lovely steaks and everything with all your crowd. So You've been having a very pleasurable evening.
Yes. So I was at the hibachi I had the shrimp and the filet and some sushi and some rice. So my belly is full, but my heart is also full because it is football season. And I'm joined by a guest, man, who's been, just as geared up as I am to get ready for the Dallas Cowboys season. So let's kind of, what were your expectations before we kind of get into how it went this evening? We haven't talked for a few months. You on the show early on. Now, training camp, some stories. Zach Martin's not there. Coming into week one of preseason, what was your overall opinion on what you wanted to see and what you kind of expected?
Yeah, I mean, the main one for me was the biggest, the question marks on the roster. Obviously, the one thing you want from preseason is to limit the injuries. You don't want injuries. There's what's happened whatever with Malik Jefferson. We'll find more out about that in a week. But it was more about certain position groups because too many people, and you know exactly where I'm going here, pay too much attention to what the scoreline is, and they're like, and you get the same thing. Oh yeah, but the Cowboys lost and they couldn't string this together, and it's like that. But preseason isn't about that. It's about taking what you've done in training camp, taking your installs and then implementing that into a game situation and seeing how it comes off. And then you can make adjustments and you move on in the next week. That's why preseasons, all the games look different.
Right.
So what I was after was offensive line, kicker, running back and linebacker. They were my top really four things I was looking at.
Right.
Running back and linebacker, we've got answers for, thankfully. Kicker, it was going okay. I was speaking to Meg online because she's there at the game, Meg Murray from Blogging the Boys, and we're kind of like, not too bad. And then all of a sudden he misses the extra point. You're like, okay, scrap all that, Right. So it's back to the drawing board for kicker. In terms of linebacker, everybody showed up, and Isaiah Land, who you could consider a defensive end, he came in at the end of the game, just pure disruption.
Right.
It's very possible he could make the final cut. He's still got a little bit of a way to go.
I could see him as a practice squad guy. I could see them stashing him, a guy like that.
Yeah, 100%, because he's just so disruptive.
Right.
Tackles for loss in college were through the roof, pressures. The guy is just a disruptor. If, like you say, practice squad, see how he develops. If you need to bring him in through the season on a few plays, bring him in on the active roster and just see how it goes. But he's definitely a guy you want to develop and continue. He just needs to get down the gym and bulk up, basically.
Right.
Offensive line was a big one. There was a couple of sacks, a couple of miscommunications. Nothing like where you're just like, oh, God, this is really bad. It seemed to hold its own. And like you said at the start of the show, the game started with the Jacksonville Jaguars starters.
Right.
And we're playing with a bunch of backups in terms of offensive line, because there are questions with depth and so many issues at the moment. We're playing with the backup to the backups. Guys, we're not really going to consider beating on the right. Well, he might, but
right.
I think, though, more than anything, the biggest takeaway from the offensive line is when you look at it, you go, okay, so Zach Martin really, really does need to be a priority. Whatever the situation is there now, it needs to get resolved. It needs to get sorted, because what we've seen...
Steven needs to step up. Steven needs to step up, open up the paycheck, the checkbook. And, I mean, think about all the the few deals they've done recently has opened up some cap space this year. Front-loaded deal with them, make them happy right now, and then lower hits next year, the year after, when you got to pay them, but pay them something right now, because there is cap space. Think about all the courting they did with Odell Beckham and Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons, taking them to basketball games. Where was that money coming from? Give it to your guy who's been, knock on wood, pretty damn healthy for most of his career and pretty damn solid.
Yeah, I mean, so what this is all boiling down to, because it was actually, there was whispers in the wind this time last year where Zach Martin was kind of considering retirement. He's just
right
for a lot of reasons, and like some of it as well is to do with that he wants to leave on a high. So at the moment, when you look at Hall of Fame guards, Hall of Fame players who played guard that are in, Zach Martin's already accomplished what is equivalent to that now. So there was a little bit of like, if I retire now, I'm leaving on that same level of highness. Do I really want to play another cut? Because he's getting up there in age now. He's getting a bit long in the tooth.
Right.
Do you want to go into the stage where you start declining, and then people are talking about, rather than the majority of what happened before, you're talking about, well, yeah, but look at how it ended. You use it as an excuse to keep him out. So like, this is more of a, kind of like, I want to retire, but if you make it worth my while, I'll come back. And I think
but then he's sending text messages to his buddies on the offensive line that he's going to be out there soon. So I can kind of see that, but Zach has been on better offenses in his career, but can we say he's been on a better all-around team than the one they have this year?
Yeah, and you think as well, it plays to his advantage that he's now got a defense that keeps the score low. Right. Because now that means that the Cowboys offense, I say there, but the Cowboys offense can run the ball a lot more, which is something him and Steele were very effective at on that side of the line. So now you're just playing possession football, which it leans into his strengths. So you'd think that'd be something, but it's all politics and paychecks, so you leave that
politics
to those
and
guys.
Paychecks. Yeah, man. All right, let's get into a little bit of breaking down this evening's games, but I do want to let everybody know you can find the show on the Twits Titles Podcast Network on YouTube if you're watching live. Be appreciated if you throw us a like, some comments, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll be coming to you in season now about them Cowboys as well. We'll likely be releasing. We're figuring out dates, but you'll be seeing it if you're subscribed. You hit the bell. We got tons of fantasy content, all that good stuff. Check us out on the Twitter at Twits Titles. I'm at Coach Sheps, and Mike is at Ken Fig Cowboy, Ken, and Cowboy is Kowboy. All right, man. One of the things, so I was looking forward to John Stevens because I had Kyle Yeomans on a few weeks ago, and he actually, like, the last player he mentioned on the show was John Stevens. So Deuce Vaughn, John Stevens, DeMarvion Overshown. And one of the reasons I was super excited about DeMarvion Overshown is, I was out at the Senior Bowl. I got to see him live. I also, when I heard he was a converted safety, and I think a 4 or 5 star recruit. So he started his first year. He didn't start at Texas as a safety his first year, but he started his career at Texas as a safety. I got to be clear with that. Converted a linebacker, but what really showed me at the Senior Bowl, I saw some pass rush reps. I saw a spin move that was pretty damn phenomenal. I was like, all right, he's versatile. But what got me within the last few weeks is Dan Quinn letting him wear the dot at practice. And I don't think he's expecting him to start the season as the Mike calling the plays. But the fact that he's prepping him for that, it says something to me. You don't just do that. And then Dak lets him call the team, like before the game, he lets him break the team down. So what are your thoughts on, what do you expect from DeMarvion Overshown this season? What did you see from him this evening?
Exactly what we've been seeing in training camp, and what you mentioned in Senior Bowl as well. That because he's very quick. He's very fast off the line, and his top end speed. Like, we talk about it, when they're doing the 40-yard dash. But what I pay attention to more is how fast are they in pads, because that's the important one. And when he's in pads, he's faster. And, you're talking about the spin move as well. He's got a very effective way of, when he's going through the A gaps, of getting skinny.
Right.
And you've seen a couple of sacks from him while he played for the Longhorns, getting and hitting through the gap and getting into the backfield. And when you've got that much speed and acceleration, that's lethal to quarterbacks. This evening, because I mentioned one of the things I was looking at was the linebacker call. Him, Devin Harper, who fell on a fumble. He just jumped on the ball. That was good to see. And you've also got we didn't see Jabril Cox. He was out there, I believe. I did see his number out there, but I don't think he was doing it. But he's been coming along nicely. But in the game, Overshown was literally everywhere. Like the lateral speed from him and the other linebacker,
Damone Clark.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Their lateral speed working together, sideline to sideline defending was just all over the place. Not like bad all over. I mean, like they were literally everywhere together.
Angles.
Yeah, and like there's a good saying with linebackers, a good scout saying is go slow until you know. And they were both doing that. They're just keeping square to the line, shuffling, reading the play, moving, and then firing off and getting to the ball carriers. There's a couple of early ones where they were bunching, but it's if you're going to get it wrong now. Do you know what I mean? And then learn from it. But generally, they were on fire. They ticked all the boxes for me. So right now, I'm no longer in fear of the linebacker core. The only part I'm in fear of with the linebacker core is we're talking about when you're talking Jabril Cox, LVE, and Damone Clark, it's durability is what the concern is. And you can't predict injuries. But what I've seen is I'm totally fine with that. Overshown, though, you could say he could have been the best defensive player on the field if it wasn't for the interception from Hanway Thomas at the start.
Right. Yeah, off Trevor Lawrence. Right?
Yeah.
So Overshown finished the first half with 6 tackles. Now, I don't know how into baseball you are, Major League Baseball. I'm not really into baseball, but when I've watched baseball in the past, there's always kind of a team that's good, but brings up like a rookie, someone from the minor leagues kind of late this season, who's young, who's got nothing to lose, who's fiery and exciting. It usually takes the team to another level. And I am making that comparison to this linebacker group because we already have a star-studded secondary, a star-studded defensive line. And now instead of walking on eggshells with the linebacker group, it's like we got a bunch of young, hungry guys who are going to be flying around and having fun, who really have nothing to lose because Overshown was what, 3rd-round pick? Damone Clark was, I don't remember when he was, and then with the neck injury, LVE with the neck injury. So there's a lot of guys who are there's levels, there's waves. So it's not just one stud. There's about 4 or 5 of them, and they're going to be flying around and having fun. They're young and talented. So from my perspective, I look at it as a bunch of guys with nothing to lose, that it's going to be super exciting to watch them go out and compete, day in and day out.
And here's the crazy bit is you look at, like how can I use some replacements? So the Cowboys really, when you look at it, most NFL defenses nowadays live in nickel defense. So you're only ever utilizing 2 linebackers. So it's going to be LVE, Damone Clark 99% of the time. And then you're going to sprinkle the other guys in rotation or depending on how you want to align things. But also Donovan Wilson, you've got question marks with, is he going to start the season?
Right.
A perfect player who could replace him for 1 or 2 games if you want, DeMarvion Overshown. Play the safety. He can play the fringe. He can play as this fringe box player. He's got the movement skills and, as we say, agility, the speed, the acceleration. He can slot into that. A lot of people talk about him being the J-Ron Curse replacement, which I think is what they're going to be leading to. But this season, if you needed to, and you needed him just to cover for Donovan Wilson to start off with, perfect guy to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, 6 tackles in the first half. Donovan Wilson, I think, led the defense in tackles last year, so he showed you he can get it done. He probably led the defense in tackles in the first half. All right, let's move on to another player. All right, Calvin Ridley lined up against Deron Bland. All right. And there were a few, it was speed outs. Calvin Ridley seemed to have the better of him, but Deron Bland, he was playing off coverage, broke. I think it was a very good opportunity for Deron Bland. So, I said Cowboys 2s versus Jacksonville 1s. For the most part, we did great if it wasn't for the Kevontae Turpin fumble, which kind of changed the game. They held them. The Cowboys 2s held Jacksonville's 1s. Very damn impressive. Stopped the run, kept DTM bottled up, kept Bigsby bottled up. But when they did move the ball, it seemed to be going to Calvin Ridley, kind of targeting against Deron Bland. What are your thoughts on Deron Bland getting the opportunity to face a guy like Calvin Ridley?
It's good because, I mean, the good thing with Deron Bland, you've seen it last year, is, and you need to have it as a cornerback. You need the short-term memory loss and the attitude, the swagger. Yeah. And you see with Deron Bland, you've seen it tonight, that he had his wins and he had his losses. But what you want to see, especially at this stage, is how does a player like that in that position react to a loss? And if they could just go back out there and be like, I'm the best guy, you're not beating me.
Right.
And then you can build off that. And that's what you've done. Now, bearing in mind he's playing as an outside corner.
Right.
And although he can do it, because we've seen him at the end of last season doing it, I consider Deron Bland much better as a slot cornerback who's really, really good at covering the big slot. So when you've got a big slot wide receiver in there,
like Chris Godwin.
And when you think about it, what the Cowboys have got this year, that's really where you want to be playing him. So it's working to his strength, and that's why I think the Stephon Gilmore trade or addition in the free agency period was so important, because it's not just that he's a good player, it's just that it aligns all your cornerback depth to the right place. It keeps them all in the right stage. So I think by putting him on the outside, you kind of like, and especially against a guy like Calvin Ridley, you're going, right, this is going to be one of the better guys you're going to face in the league.
Probably one of the best route runners he's going to face, for sure.
Definitely, yeah. And that's physical, and he's quick, and he can high point the ball really well. So, like, you think that when he's facing that, you're going to be like, this is one of the toughest matchups you're going to face. And this is how you fit. This is how well you did. And you can work off the back of it. And then also you can be like, so it's a confidence booster in one sense, but in another, you can be like, okay, but we know that you're much better playing from this position. So again, it's the whole talk of why points don't matter in preseason. It's about the plays.
Yeah, I think it was a good opportunity for him to feel like the one, because he's rarely going to see a guy like Calvin Ridley all season, but I like him there. But I also like the depth we have. With Jordan Lewis coming back, I don't think he's going to be starting in the slot if we keep him around, because he's recovering from the Achilles. And then also Eric Scott, he was another player I didn't mention earlier that I was kind of looking forward to. I didn't hear too much from him this evening, but I do think he's going to be one of the next men up if by chance we lose a guy like Stephon Gilmore or a guy like Trayvon Diggs. And I don't want to harp on it too much, because we're recapping the preseason, but the Brandon Cooks and the Stephon Gilmore deals for our roster, for the way the Cowboys roster is put together. I've said it since we brought on Gilmore. Trayvon Diggs, if you want what Gilmore's got, you got to do what Gilmore did, and no better way to find out what he did than to be like sitting in a locker room right next to him. I think that's incredible for a young guy. And then, Brandon Cooks, him and Dak seemed to hit it off. Dak's finally got a guy he could trust downfield, but that's not this evening. That's looking forward to the season. But hey, we could talk about it. We're excited. Let's talk about this defensive line without Micah Parsons. Dante Fowler. Dude, he was getting in the backfield. And even Sam Williams. We got waves. We have waves at the defensive line. What did you see from the defensive line this evening?
You've taken it already, and there was a couple of good things. So, like you say, Sam Williams tackle for losses, that was big. Dante Fowler, I think he's really coming into his own. They've got him now for another year, and
he's comfortable.
He enjoys being in Dallas too. You can see it, and what you saw with him on the play where it was the tackle for a loss is exactly why he was so highly sought after, and why he went so early in the draft. Is that it's being able to be in a 2-point stance, but somehow, because you're just so athletically capable, you can come inside and make whatever move you need to make and still get to the ball carrier or the quarterback. It's crazy to watch, but that's what he's got. So I think he's definitely, and Dan Quinn knows how to use him and utilize him at the right time in the right place.
Right.
Because you got to play him limitedly because
He's
you
a
don't want to.
weapon.
Yeah, like a designated pass rusher sort of role. That's totally fine. Sam Williams, that was a great play too. What was quite interesting was seeing the two nose tackles together. So you've seen a lot of Bahana and Mazzy side by side, and that just looks scary. And when
and
you
Hankins
see them,
ain't even out there. Like, you're not even mentioning his name, like wait till he's out there with one of those two.
Yeah, and they really put Mazzy as well through the ringer today. Like he was out on the field a lot. They just wanted to see how he reacts to a high number of snaps. So he's, although he has done it in Oxnard, he's not really the pass rusher that people are thinking he's going to be. He's doing what he did today, and it's very, very unselfish, unfortunately, for the position, because it doesn't come with a high number of these splashy production numbers of like sacks or whatever. You could see it that the two of them clogged in were just completely decimating the inside of that line on any run play, and a lot of it was bunching up, unfortunately. So like a couple of the linebackers and cornerbacks, they're supposed to come on the outside and cover there, and they were drifting in, and that was where a few of the chunk plays were coming in. And that's preseason for you. You've got to learn. It's, like I said, if you're going to make the mistakes, now's the time to do it so you can learn from it. So it happened a couple of times, but it was good to see that defensive line holding its own down there. And in the red zone, you've seen it a lot more too.
Yeah, I love it, man. I'm excited. I think you put it great. Like, you pick and choose your battles when you want to have Dante Fowler out there. Having a guy who's probably going to get somewhere between 6 and 8 sacks, and he's going to be a guy that you're kind of just going to be rotating in at the right time. That is it just seems like the Cowboys have so much depth, and they have a coaching staff that knows what they're doing and how to use this depth. And that's exciting, because in years past with guys like Jason Garrett, they didn't know how to utilize weapons.
Yeah, definitely. And you think, like you say, we have include Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence in all of this.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, Osa, he was in there, but you're going to be playing him a bit more.
Right. Heard him a lot early, and then it was kind of, they let him go.
Yeah, which makes sense for a guy like him. So, like I mentioned, Isaiah Pace being
Isaiah Land.
Pace, yeah.
Ivan Pace. He's a linebacker from Cincinnati. Yeah.
I know, I'm going to muddle them all up. But, so Isaiah Lamb, but, you start including that into it, and you're just like, wow, this could be a lot of fun to watch when it comes. The only negative I can think of is if we get some sort of, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but say we get some sort of injury in preseason, because we've got so many pass rushes and so much on the defensive line. And there's teams out there that are just wishing they had one or two of these pass rushes Cowboys have got. I think they're going to be traded if something goes wrong, because they all can't make it. They all can't. Right. So let's try and use them for something that's going to be hand. And I think that's going to be the only downfall to having so many weapons on the defense.
Yeah, they might be a little gun shy this year after moving on from that Arkansas defensive lineman last year, because they thought they had depth. I can't think of his name.
Yeah. Jonathan. John. Yeah, JR.
Whatever.
I always remember JR.
If you're
Ridgway,
John Ridgway. I was going to say, if you're listening to this at 9 p.m. after preseason, you know who we're talking about. It's slipping. John Ridgway. So I feel like they might be a little gun shy, because they had to watch him be successful in the division, which isn't easy. All right, let's move on to the offensive side of the football. Jake Ferguson looked good, moving well when the ball's in the air down the seam. I think he's going to be fine. But Jalen Tolbert, touchdown. Then he climbed the ladder on the left sideline, going up, keeping his feet in bounds. Jalen Tolbert looks like he's caught up to the speed of the NFL. He looks like he's arrived. He's comfortable, and he is capable of being. He's not going to need to be the wide receiver 3, but he looks capable of being a wide receiver 3, which is perfect for a guy who's going to be getting wide receiver 4 reps.
Yeah, and as well, because you've seen it in Oxnard, but it's also it's not just the big plays like that. Like, it's great to see him score his first NFL touchdown.
Right.
Like you say, when he goes on that 9 route down the left hash and takes the ball out the air, catches it, and it wasn't an easy catch to make, and he's got to do a lot to get his feet down and get into play.
DB was right in his pocket, you know.
Yeah. So he's doing what he can to disrupt the play or disrupt the catch, and he's still making that concentration catch, which is good to see, because obviously this was the trouble he was having last year.
Right, he's locked in.
Yeah, but it's doing, like, it's good to see that stuff, right? The OBJ type stuff.
Yeah.
But like OBJ could never do the mundane stuff, the normal stuff, the normal play, the run-of-the-mill stuff. Jalen Tolbert is doing that as well.
Right.
So I think he's definitely at this stage, when you've seen this, he's locked in for the wide receiver 4 position, because I was a little bit in doubt, and me and Jay Tuck have spoken about Tolbert a lot, and we lock horns on it, but I've had to eat my own words, because I was a little bit dubious, because you got to think where you're coming from. Like, I was saying, look, for him to be what you want to be in the wide receiver is a monumental jump that you need to have.
They set him up for failure, last year.
Yeah. So I was a little bit dubious, but you've seen what he was doing in Arsenal, and then you see what he's learned and implemented into a game.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm eating on my own words. The guy is wide receiver, because I was kind of like, is it going to be Turpin? Is it going to be Tolbert? Where's this going to go? And no, it is Tolbert. And you think then, like you mentioned, Brandon Cook, and we know what Lamb is, and Gallup is absolutely flying out the blocks as well at the moment, and making some good catches deep downfield.
Right.
Then all of a sudden you had Jalen Tolbert to this mix.
Right.
And you're like, now we can add this to it all as well.
Right.
The creativity of the different various looks you can give. I know it's going to be in the West Coast offense, and some people I don't think are prepared for what's coming. But the weather is very methodical and very you want to just go down the field bit by bit, taking chunks where you can. Just death of 1,000 paper cuts is the West Coast offense. So when you have a guy like Jalen Tolbert who can now add that extra part to it, all of a sudden this offense, you can be even more creative with those things. So the route combinations can go exponential because of what you're getting from him. And now all of a sudden this offense goes from really good, number 1 offense last year, to maybe very possible the same again now.
Remember, like, Cooper, Lamb, Gallup, Cedric Wilson, and remember Dak. How well he utilized those receivers. Now, I think Tolbert's like, Dak likes to utilize the 4. He likes to, because if you're gonna leave 4 open, the 4th receiver open, Dak, death by 1,000 paper cuts. He will take 12. He will take 14. He will take 8. So I'm super excited to have a viable option at the 4th wide receiver. At the 4th,
it's really important, and it's just so starkly different to what we had last year. When you think last year we were going, Dennis Houston might be our 3rd wide receiver.
This is what we were doing last year. We were on our knees hoping, like, hopefully these guys work out. This year they actually went out trading those 5th round picks for stars, and then not for nothing, Tolbert did the work. The Dak yard. All summer, in the spring, I was seeing, like, he was out there working with his QB1. So hats off to him, because, you're saying you're eating your words, but you're not eating your words by happenstance. Like, you're eating your words because he went out there and did the work. To prove you wrong. You know what I mean? So that's gladly. I'll take that as well. My guy Nino's in here. He's been talking up Tolbert. So Tolbert, I'm super excited. South Alabama. I actually met Jalen Tolbert at the Senior Bowl last year. So it's a funny story. I'll tell you it off air, because the people who listen at home are probably sick and tired of hearing it, because I almost tell it every week. All right.
I'll tell you what I do like, though. The one thing I did know, it's just generally with the white, it's just like how quick they all are in their release and get into the top end speed. A lot of quick release package. A lot, and when you think of how this Texas Coast offense is going to, that's exactly it. And it's so much faster than what it was last year. It's really good to see.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks definitely adding a guy like that. He had some speed for sure. All right, John Stevens, I think he makes the team. I don't know how they're going to put him on the team, but I think he has to make the team. He's been productive at practice. He has a touchdown tonight. He's in the right place at the right time. I don't like the number he's wearing. It doesn't look right on a tight end. So hopefully somebody gets cut and you can get a better number. But besides the number physically, he looks the part.
Yeah, this is where it comes down to. I think I put it in a tweet either yesterday or today. I don't know. All my days at the moment are all merging into one. But like, when you think the 53rd spot on this roster is going to go one of two directions or three. So you think you've got because when you look at John Stevens, he's kind of like the Kyle Pitts look. I'm not saying he's the same type of player, but that tall, lanky, oversized wide receiver, undersized tight end type guy. So it's, do you want to take that on your roster? He's not going to provide you much in special teams unless they can try and figure it out with him. But I'm a guy like that. I don't think I would want to. But do you want to go that way? Do you want to keep Sean McEwen, who has a lot of versatility? I know he's never really offered much on offense, but there is some there, and he's a special teams ace. Because I think he was second, I believe, in special team tackles last year. I might be wrong. I think he's second. And then you got Hunter Lipke. So really, I think the 53rd position, where the 53rd roster spot is what they want to do with those three positions. Lipke obviously offers special teams capabilities as well. He'll offer you that, but it's which direction do you want to go with those three?
Right.
I think that's what it boils down to.
I think Land and Lipke are both guys that are going to be practice squad. Ideally, we'll be able to get them back. Yeah. And that's just my 2 cents on it right now. But it's hard to tell. There's a lot of depth on this team, and there's going to be guys that, I heard Brian Broaddus and Bobby Bout talking the other day kind of about, do we let John Stevens play? Do we want to show the world what he's capable of, or do we bench him? And like they had to give him an opportunity. And what did he do? He comes out and scores a touchdown. So, all right. One last player I want to talk to you before we let you go and you can go get some sleep is the star of the show. I saved him for last, and that is Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn, absolutely electric. Yeah. His shiftiness, his stop-start ability, his little spin move, him jumping up and securing the catch. Like I compared the linebackers earlier to being that bolt of energy, that excitement on a veteran stout like defense. They got the young linebackers who are electrifying and exciting. I think having a guy like Deuce Vaughn, who's going to be a cult hero, is going to be so fun for us as fans, but it is going to be a spark. And I think, Zeke behind Dak was his brother. And that is a big hole to fill. And I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of, there's a hole to fill, if that makes sense. Like,
definitely.
And I'm not saying Vaughn is going to fill the hole numbers wise, but he is going to bring an excitement that will fill the void that the offense is missing. Somebody's gone. It's easy to move on when there's something exciting, new, and flashy. And I think Deuce Vaughn's going to bring that.
Definitely. I mean, like, put it this way, right? So all the guys had their chances on in the running back core. And I put the little screenshot up on my Twitter, and it goes like this. It goes Malik Davis, who everybody had touted as the RB2, 4 carries tonight, 0.8 yards per carry. Lipke, 3 attempts, 2 yards per carry. Rico Dowdle, 6 carries, 3.5 yards per carry. And then you go Deuce Vaughn.
Right. Dowdle had a fumble, right?
And he had a fumble as well. Right. Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden you go to Deuce Vaughn, 1 touchdown, 6.2 yards per carry. Yeah. And it's like, it's clear. It's clear.
And highlights.
Yeah, and that's and bear in mind, all these guys are all played the same defense throughout the game, and this is so. I think what you've got to do going forward in preseason now is you need to start seeing what you can get with Deuce Vaughn. Use him a little bit more, like put him through the ringer, as we say. So Dowdle, I think watching it, I know there's the fumble and the ball security is kind of a bit weird with what he was doing there. Like you've got defenders around you, tuck the ball in. Don't leave it on your arm out there like that. As I said at the start of the show, preseason's when you want to make these mistakes. You can learn from it. It's happened at the right time. Yes. So that's good. But it is very, very obvious when you watch it that they really want Dowdle to be the RB2. And that's fine by me because, to me, Tony Pollard and Malik Davis, I think, are fairly similar-ish in the type of running backs they are, that they want to go off tackle. They're these cut-and-run type guys. They'll offer you some receiving. Dowdle does too, but Davis a bit more so like Pollard does. So when you think of like your RB2, you want your RB2 to be more different than what your RB1 is. So that's Dowdle, and I think that's why they're trying to push him. But he did look fine, Dowdle, for parts of it till the fumble happened.
Right.
I think Vaughn, though, is going to be making. Right. He's going to be making this final roster.
I think only one of Davis or Dowdle is going to make the roster.
At the moment, I think it's going to be Dowdle. I think they're pushing for that more than anything. And I'm speaking to Brian Broaddus, and I've asked Isaiah Stanback, speaking to him a couple of weeks ago. They're all saying Rico Dowdle is the RB2 at the moment. They've said it. Both of them have said it. So I'm believing that. Vaughn, though, because I think what makes Vaughn so good is it's actually his size is his best weapon, when people were saying that his size is the biggest negative. But because you've got these 6.5 foot, 300-pound offensive lineman in front of you, you can just hide behind them. So nobody can see where he is. And all of a sudden, you've seen it today. He flies because he will. You've seen it in college. He will run through the A gaps. And, for a guy that size, you think there's no way he's going to. He will. He's very happy to do that. And then once he gets out and he breaks free, because he's small and he's nippy, that means he's harder to catch. And these guys who are much bigger, they're a little bit slower, less agile. He's just dancing around them, and that's what you've seen today on the big play, on the chunk play. That's exactly what he was doing. I mean, he was so fast, he made two Jaguars defenders collide into each other because he just slipped between them, and they virtually knocked each other out. Scoring his first touchdown, I think, is huge. That's massive for him because that's a big booster.
Yeah.
And now people do have to pay attention to him, and they've got to go.
Fan base is going to demand it.
Yeah, I think he was already a fan favorite because he's so small. He's like that average man type thing. Like an average man can do this. So it's like that's what it is. He's the small guy that everyone wants to root for.
Right.
So now after that, it's like, there we go. This now, like I've said, we was talking and puts it on. Where were you when the legend was born? Because it's literally this is the start of it now.
Yeah, and like I said, the big void. I don't think he's going to fill the numbers Zeke did, but Zeke was our hero. After Dez was gone, Zeke was feed me, excitement. When he gets going, we get going. Cooper, silent but deadly. CeeDee Lamb, silent but deadly. Michael Gallup, silent but deadly. Dak, even, like, he's a warrior. But Zeke was our bright star. And I'm not saying Vaughn is going to be that, but there's a need for somebody to step up. Because I'm not saying Pollard too. Pollard's exciting, but there's no like bravado. Like, it's kind of, he just does his thing and he's so good at it. Like, we got a lot of guys who are very good and they know they're good and they act like they've been there. And I'm not saying Vaughn won't, but the fact that he's a rookie, there's going to be some excitement. It's going to be fun to see him realize.
Yeah, and to watch the development. And watch the development as he goes through it piece by piece. That's the fun. The journey is what's fun with the rookies.
Bingo. And he it's like with me, it's like he's like I can't think of it. I'm having a brain fart right now. When you pull the ball shoots through, what the hell? Not a ping pong ball. Pinball. Pinball wizard. Yeah. He's like a pinball, man. Like, it's late. I'm sorry, my brain freeze. But like, he's just like, like you're trying to hit the pinball, but you can't because you don't know where it's going to end up. It's like he's just flying around. He's spinning. So I'm excited. But overall, we lost the game. We played against their ones for most of the first half. Our backups played very well against their starting offense with a quarterback who is probably a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. For the most part, we stayed healthy. We'll wait and see what's up with Malik Jefferson. And hopefully next week we'll get to see Deuce Vaughn get some more reps behind maybe some starters from the offensive line. Maybe Dak gets a few reps with Deuce Vaughn. What are you looking forward to coming forward to next week?
So next week, like you say, it'd be interesting. Are they gonna what are they gonna do with the offensive line? Is the next step now? So
don't play Tyron.
Yeah, keep him wrapped in bubble wrap.
Right.
He was he was in Italy a few weeks ago before they got to camp by the pool. Trying to send messages saying like, just go down the stairs slowly, don't run by
Yeah.
the pool,
Yeah.
walk.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Maybe get a little bit more of let's get some Tyler Smith in there.
Yeah.
How's Biadish looking, or do you want to keep him locked up because of whatever the calf strain was he had last week? Do you want to keep that? But let's see some from the offensive line. In terms of quarterback, Will Grier, you want to get the processing going a bit quicker. Like it was coming along towards the end of the game. You could see it. He's starting to make some better passes.
Right.
Whereas like at the start, he was a little bit like he was in college, where it could be very inconsistent and erratic. Like you know he can do these things, but sometimes it'll go astray. Because at the moment, the Russian Greer part of it is like, which way do you want to take this as a backup quarterback? And not that it's important, but just in terms of like where we're going to go with this. So let's see that step up a bit. In terms of the defense, I'm not playing Micah Parsons still. I'm keeping him fresh.
You got to keep him away from himself.
Yeah. And especially when you think like last year, as the season wore on, he wore down because they were using him so much. So we know what he is. Let's keep him off. Same with DeMarcus Lawrence. I think next week, like on the defense, you just want to play like literally all the down roster guys.
Right.
Like, let's see where we are with the depth at the bottom and then work up. That's how I want to do it.
Right. Awesome.
More and kicking. Let's see where the kicking's at.
Yeah. Brandon
because they
Aubrey,
need to make a decision.
I was seeing tweets about how well he's doing kickoffs and how this and that and the other thing, and then he goes and blows it. So let's start from a clean slate. Let's have a short memory. Let's go out next week, make all your kicks, and then we'll be really good. But man, I appreciate you staying up late for Cowboys Nation. I know it's late out there for you, man. It's been excellent talking to you once again. And good luck throughout the NFL season. If you need anything from us, you know where I'm at. I'm sure I'll be reaching out to you again soon to get you on. He is Mike Poland at Ken Fig Cowboy on the Twitter, UK Cowboys, blogging the boys. You have anything you're working on you want to let the listeners know about?
Well, I'm doing the daily countdown, which is basically going through the roster. Every day is a different Cowboy. I'm doing that since 99 days out. So there's that. But then what's the season? I'm trying to remember who was tomorrow. Oh, Malik Hooker.
Okay.
So 28 days away, 4 weeks. Man. So it's come quick. So Malik Hooker's tomorrow because he wears number 28. So obviously just counting it through, going down. Then once the season starts, then on Blogging the Boys, it's just the usual article. So the mailbag, I'll do the position breakdown series, which has got a twist on it this year, which is like a scoring system that I'm looking to do, where it gives them like the attributes, if you like, in a score that I'm giving them, just to break it down a little bit easier for people.
I'm going to have to keep track of that. Maybe I can get you on the show in season.
Yeah, definitely. Well, anytime, mate.
Excellent. All right, everybody. We appreciate you. We'll be catching you all next week.